Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling something that sounds a bit like a contradiction, doesn't it? How to care really deeply, fiercely even, but without that, urge to cling. We're calling this deep dive tender freedom.
It's a fascinating area.
Right. So our mission today is really getting into that tension between truly deeply caring for someone who could be a partner, family, a really close friend, and that sort of anxious feeling that you need to hold on tight, maybe too tight, just to keep the connection safe.
You've shared some sources with us that suggest a totally different way, a path to love that's strong, builds commitment, builds safety, but crucially doesn't lead to burnout or that desperate grasping feeling.
Yeah, it's probably one of the most common traps in relationships, wouldn't you say? That moment we think intensity equals longevity. And these sources we're looking at, they explore this really interesting idea. How do we actually manage to love with an open heart and a steady spine? That's really the core question we're digging into. I really like that phrase, open heart and a steady spine. Because the mistake we often make, I think, is believing that loving someone means promising, I'll never let go.
Or thinking we keep the love alive by holding on tighter.
Yeah, we're even trying to control things, control the outcome, maybe.
Exactly. And that need for control usually comes straight from fear. But the sources offer this, well, pretty surprising insight right up front. Love isn't actually preserved by grasping onto it.
Okay.
It's preserved by truth and clarity. That ability, that willingness to see things just as they are, even if that clarity feels uncomfortable or, might even mean saying no sometimes.
Okay, let's unpack that a bit, this core shift, because it really forces us to look at what we sometimes mistake for devotion. The sources point out how easily we confuse real love with just endurance. Like we're taught, almost without realizing it, that if we just forgive more or put up with more of something that maybe doesn't feel right,
we're somehow proving how much we love them or how committed we are. And that thinking, it's just a direct path to feeling completely drained or even resentful down the line. The sources are really, really clear about the cost here. Love without boundaries, that's not devotion, it's depletion.
Depletion, wow.
Yeah, you're basically emptying your own tank to make space for something that, well, shouldn't need that kind of accommodation in a healthy, respectful relationship. It just can't last.
So this is where tender freedom really comes in. It needs that steady spine part.
Yeah.
We're talking about having the courage to keep your heart open, to stay compassionate. That's the tenderness. But at the same time, being truthful enough to, close the door on disrespect, or things that just don't align, or actual abuse, of course.
That really is the wisdom of the steady spine, isn't it? But, when the source says something like, I can wish you peace and still walk away, I imagine some listeners might feel a bit resistant to that.
Sure. It sounds a bit cold, maybe.
Yeah, like, isn't walking away sometimes seen as just giving up? How do the sources frame it so it's not just attachment?
That's a really good question. The sources make a distinction based on why you're doing it. Motivation matters. Detachment is walking away out of, say, indifference, or maybe spite.
Okay.
But this kind of truthful action, it's walking away out of necessity, to stay whole. It's about honoring yourself. The main point is, unconditional love doesn't mean unconditional tolerance. It just can't.
Right.
You can absolutely wish someone well, hope they find their way, but also recognize that maybe their journey can't happen alongside yours if it means you have to constantly shrink yourself or disappear.
It's such a crucial distinction. Unconditional love means maybe holding compassion for the person, their core self, no matter what they do. But it doesn't mean you have to make space for their behavior in your life if that behavior is harmful.
Which brings us back to those really powerful, almost kind of revolutionary takeaways we saw. I can wish you peace and still walk away.
And the other one, too. I can love you deeply and still protect my worth, which is just as vital. That really nails the essence of this wisdom. Love doesn't ask you to empty yourself to prove you're devoted. In fact, mature love, it asks you to stay truthful enough to remain whole. Because if you're not whole, what can you really offer?
Right, you're just offering need at that point.
Exactly. And relationships built on need instead of wholeness, they almost always fall into that pattern of grasping and control. That steady spine, it's like the visible proof of mutual accountability. And that's what turns simple affection into really deep, reliable trust.
Okay, so once we kind of wrap our heads around this idea that love needs that steady spine, we get to this beautiful paradox the sources explore, which is that boundaries don't actually block love. They give it shape. They're the architecture of safety.
Yeah, think about anything that's built to last.
Right.
Right? A house, a bridge. Even like an orchard needs fences or defined edges.
Yeah.
Without boundaries, love just becomes messy. leaky, and eventually kind of destructive because respect gets lost.
Mhm.
Boundaries give us that clear, honest knowing of, okay, this is where you start and this is where I end. And that clarity is actually what makes love feel safe enough for the heart to stay open.
And when boundaries are clear and hopefully communicated with care, they don't feel like walls shutting people out. They actually build trust. They send two really key messages at the same time, messages you need for deep connection. You won't disappear in me.
And I won't disappear in you. Yeah, so important. And
Totally.
in that space, that clarity, the sources say both hearts can finally just
Okay,
exhale.
go. Yeah.
When you don't have to constantly be guarding your energy or guessing where the other person stands on things, you can actually relax into the connection. We often look for safety in promises, forever, or we cling to how things used to be.
Mhm.
But real safety, the kind that actually allows for freedom,
Yeah.
it comes from knowing you can be totally yourself, all your quirks, all your needs, and you'll still be held with respect.
It's like you can finally stop holding your breath. And if love has that shape, that structure, it can breathe.
Mm.
And then that compulsive need to cling or micromanage things or try and control where it's all going, it just kind of dissolves.
Yeah.
Because the safety's already there.
That spaciousness is the freedom.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about non-clinging, that wisdom of the heart, the sort of letting go aspect. But the sources remind us that's only half the practice. What actually happens inside that safe space we've built?
Right.
The other half is very active. It's about showing up.
Precisely. Real love isn't just something you fall into and then, cruise along. It's a rhythm, something you learn to keep deliberately. And the sources have this lovely phrase for it: effort without scoreboard.
Meaning you're not keeping score, not tallying up who did what, waiting for them to pay you back emotionally right away.
Yeah, exactly. You're just doing the small things, the often invisible gestures of care that quietly say, I'm here, I'm present. And this connects to some deeper psychology, too. This practice of giving, of tending, without needing that immediate tit-for-tat return. Psychologists sometimes call it a communal orientation.
Communal orientation.
You're not operating like it's a business transaction. You're coming from a place where the act of caring itself feels, well, sacred maybe. The reward isn't getting something back. The reward is being present and giving. So, if non-clinging is the heart's wisdom, then this consistent, unselfish effort, that's the architecture of commitment.
This is where it gets really interesting, I think, especially considering, our modern lives. The sources link this to our anxiety today. We live in this digital age where we often mix up consistency with control.
Yeah.
Or we think excitement is the only sign of meaning. If something isn't constantly buzzing or giving us instant feedback, we worry it's fading. We measure things in likes and views and immediate responses.
And that expectation, it completely undermines the deep, slow work of real love. You just can't measure love on a scoreboard. Our sources remind us that the real work of love often starts after the initial fireworks have faded.
Right, when things settle down.
Exactly. When passion matures into partnership. When that quiet, reliable comfort starts to replace the constant need for thrill, the moment we start desperately trying to bring back the initial excitement, we often end up losing the partnership itself.
That transition is so critical. And the path to freedom, to letting go of trying to control it all, seems to lie in accepting the natural flow of things.
Yeah.
The world's flux.
Yeah.
Which means we have to talk about impermanence, or enika, as it's sometimes called. Not seeing it as this tragedy, this threat of loss.
But seeing it as just aliveness, proof of life, necessary change. We tend to see impermanence as this scary ticking clock, right? Focused only on the end. But the source asks us to think of it more like the weather. Always changing, sure, but that movement is life. When we can really accept that nothing stays the same, that everything is always in motion, including relationships, we can stop gripping so tightly.
And start
tending. We shift from trying to secure forever, which is really just a fantasy of control, and start learning how to be truly present in the moment we're actually in. Freedom isn't found in controlling the future. It's found in the peace of, those shared quiet mornings, or the steadiness of just showing up for each other through all the changes.
Okay, so pulling this all together, what does this actually look like day to day? We've gone from the need for truth through the structure boundaries provide to this daily practice of effort. The sources give us 4 key kind of actionable practices to find this tender freedom. Let's walk through them. First one, set clear boundaries with compassion.
Absolutely foundational. And it means being proactive, not reactive. You have to speak your needs, but gently and early and often.
Why early?
Because if you wait until you're already fed up, simmering because a boundary's been crossed again and again, you can't speak gently anymore. It just comes out sounding like an attack.
Okay. Makes sense.
Speaking needs early is how love learns to breathe safely inside that structure we talked about.
Got it. Okay, number 2, show up in small ways. Effort is love's quiet language. This boils down to 3 things, right? Attention, repair, and repetition.
Mm-hmm. Attention means actually putting the phone down, really listening. Repair means owning it quickly when you mess up, saying sorry and meaning it. And repetition. That's the steady rhythm, the predictability that builds deep trust over time.
Like, what's a small way? Give us an example.
Could be as simple as making coffee just the way they like it every morning without needing a thank you. It's that intrinsic reward of just tending to the connection.
Okay. 3rd, practice. Practice non-clinging through presence. This sounds like the internal work.
It is. It's the moment-by-moment emotional heavy lifting. When that old familiar fear pops up, fear of loss, anxiety about the future, which it will,
Yeah, it always does.
you breathe, you acknowledge it, and you try to anchor yourself in the truth of this moment. I can love this moment fully, right now, and still be okay if it changes or passes. You appreciate the beauty without trying to pin it down forever because you can't anyway.
That takes some real honesty with yourself, doesn't it?
It really does. Acknowledging the fear is there, but not letting it steer the ship. Non-clinging isn't about being cold or detached. It's about committing to being present with what is.
Okay, and the last one, number 4. Honor both tenderness and truth. This feels like the integration of everything.
Exactly. Soft doesn't have to mean weak, and truthful doesn't have to mean harsh. We often think it's one or the other.
Yeah, like you have to choose.
Right. But tender freedom is holding both. It's devotion, but without the fear driving it.
It sounds like love growing up, in a way.
That's a great way to put it. It's love maturing. Moving from that hunger state, that needy feeling of, I need you to complete me, into a state of offering. It's the kind of space that opens up when 2 people trust each other enough to be fully themselves,
Yeah.
Dedicated to helping each other grow, not just absorbing each other.
Wow. That really has been quite a journey. We started looking at deep care as maybe this process of grasping, maybe even leading to depletion, and we've arrived at seeing it as something grounded, truthful, a devotion that actually creates freedom, creates space.
And this kind of mature love, it carries this final, quiet message. A whisper, maybe, to the other person, but also to yourself. I won't cage you, but I won't vanish either. I'll just meet you right here, moment by moment, and let each moment be enough.
What's really fascinating, and what the sources seem to point towards, is that maybe the deepest love isn't about what we keep or hold on to. It's about what we create together. That happens when 2 hearts feel safe enough to just stay open. Wide open.
Which leaves us and leaves you, the listener, with a really important question to take away. Something to maybe apply right now. If safety, not some promise of forever, is the real key to freedom and love, what specific small gesture of tending that effort without needing a scoreboard, what can you offer today, right now? What will you help create in this moment?